Welcome back to learning how to play the Native American style flute. Today I am going to be looking at a topic that was suggested to me, and it's kind of difficult for me to address. I'm going to do the best I can. How do we hold our flute? And I'm going to go one further. How do we hold ourselves? I can speak for myself, and I'm going to try and cover some other variations, let's say, in this topic. Holding a flute, I'm going to start with a basic mid-range flute. This is what I'm going to call a mid D. Some people call them a low D. Excuse me, E, not a D. I apologize. This is a mid E flute. Some makers do call this a low E if they make the higher version also. It gets confusing. This is an E, fourth octave, and a piano. Around 23 inches long, something like that. The first thing that I do when I pick up a flute is I put my fingers over the finger holes with the flute just kind of out in front of me to get a comfortable fit. I feel the holes centered under each finger. I kind of move them around to where it feels good and comfortable, and I feel like I'm centered well. And then I bring the flute up to me and kind of rest it on my lower lip, and then just bring it up to kind of create a seal. I prefer standing because my upper body is nice and straight. I can get air in easier than if I'm kind of crunched down. I can't get as much air into my diaphragm and everything, into my lungs. It makes a big difference. So that's why I prefer standing. We are going to cover sitting in a little second part on this. I'll get to that. But standing up is what I firmly believe will give everyone that can do this and stand up straight and be able to take a big, deep breath. I think you will be able to play much, much better with that as a starting point. That said, fingers centered on those holes. I bring the flute up, rested on my lower lip, and bring the flute up to make a seal on my lips. I don't tip my head down because here you're getting restrictions again. So I kind of try and keep everything straight, bring the flute up to where it's comfortable, and play. That's what works best for me. We'll get to sitting a little bit later. So a mid-range flute. Shorter flutes basically mean your hands are closer to your mouth. That's about the only change. And your fingers are closer together. Sometimes that can get uncomfortable for my fat little fingers on a tiny, tiny flute. A much larger flute. This happens to be from Dana Ross, Falcon Flutes. The manufacturer doesn't make that big of a difference. This is a B flat, third octave on a piano. And the finger holes This is a long flute, and the finger holes are stretched out. There's a very, very small offset on the finger holes, but not very much on this. It is almost a straight line. This one might be offset slightly more than this set down here. It's just the way the flute was made. So this is a big stretch, both the top holes and the bottom holes. It's a big stretch. And this flute has a long, slow air chamber, mouthpiece section, whatever you want to call this front portion of the flute above the block that pushes those holes away from you also. So on this kind of a flute with this mouthpiece style, nipple style mouthpiece, it allows me to kind of bring the flute in a little bit more to be able to reach those holes. And again, I find the holes, I center them, and then I bring the flute to my mouth and bring it up a little bit. This one, I can kind of rest on my chin, and this doesn't have to be at a great angle. I can bring it in a little bit. Again, I'm trying to keep my body pretty straight. I'm able to get air quicker and easier that way. There's no hindrance to me trying to draw air in. I can take a breath very easily. So this is a pretty large and a pretty big stretch. That works best for me, and I can kind of bring it down a little bit to what's comfortable without having to tip my head down. When you start tipping your head down, you can start making restrictions in your air supply. The next beast of a flute. This happens to also be from Dina Ross, Falcon Flutes. A huge spread on the finger holes, and luckily this has a side blow mouthpiece that is dropped way down so that I can get the flute into me. I do kind of bring it to my side a little bit so I don't have to stretch my neck over quite as far. This particular flute, I do tend to kind of tip my head a little bit, but I try not to get it too far to make things comfortable. That's just the way that my hands and everything is. I wish this was just a little bit higher for me personally, but if I move my hands up, I start to feel cramped on my arms. My right hand in particular starts to get a little bit cocked, and I don't like that. So, those are the three main, I would say, jumps in sizes. I'm going to reset the cameras so that we can look at sitting position. Hold on, be right back. Welcome back. I'm in a basic chair, and excuse, it's going to squeak a little bit, so excuse that in the background. I'm going to start with that same mid E flute in the 4th octave on a piano. Sitting down. You can kind of sit back in the chair if you wanted to relax, things like that. And bring, again, get your fingers positioned over the holes, bring it to your lip, and bring it up to where it's comfortable. I feel like I'm reclining slightly on the chair. I prefer sitting up straighter. Again, trying to keep my diaphragm and everything from getting bent like this. I don't want to be scrunched up with an arched back. That type of thing. I don't want to see that, because then again, trying to get air in. This is so much easier to take a breath. So much easier. So sit up. I don't like to sit back in the chair personally. Even relaxing, this can be very relaxing after you get accustomed to sitting in a better postured position. This can be very comfortable for, I think, most people. Again, position the fingers, get them centered over the holes on the flute, rested on my lower lip, bring it up to where it feels comfortable without tipping my head. My arms are pretty free and relaxed and easy to move things. I can move my upper body freely if I wanted to. The hardest part on playing a flute in a performance is that you have a microphone to deal with, which I don't have set up here right now. I'm just using the natural sound that the cameras are picking up. If you have a microphone, you have to try and get it positioned so that it is pointing at the true sound hole in your playing position without getting in the way of your fingers and all that kind of stuff, or getting in the way of moving sideways for the mic stand. So a mic coming down, preferably on some kind of a boom stand, would be the best situation, so that you can adjust that to be pointing right about here. And ideally, on a vocal style dynamic mic, you would want it 4 inches away from the flute, something like that. You don't want to be moving into the mic. You want the mic to be positioned to where you are comfortable. Sometimes you might have to make changes on that mic stand or on your positioning, moving up a little bit closer on the chair, something like that. So that would be on the basic mid-range flute. I'm only going to use the next one, not my great big bass flute, but this one, a B flat in the 3rd octave. Again, this is a very, very long flute. I get my fingers positioned, centered over those holes, and playing it like this, I feel like my arms aren't comfortable. So I would bring this to the side, and in my case, I'm right-handed. I would bring it over my right leg to bring that arm into a more comfortable position. You can even lean it against your leg if that would be more comfortable for you. So something like that, if you do have to sit, that is a really good way to work with a great big long flute. You can put it between your legs and that might work also, but with this whole spread, I would tend to put it on my right side a little bit to bring my right hand in a little bit closer to my body. And I'm actually tipping the flute very slightly in that direction also, not keeping it straight to make it easier to hit those finger holes. You should be able to hit all of those finger holes easily once you find them in whatever position you're in. That will also help to find that ideal playing position for you. So, keep your upper body as upright and straight as you can to make it easier to get that breath intake with no struggle or pressure or anything. Just a nice free, able to fill up that lung cavity very easily without restriction. You want your arms to feel comfortable, fingers and wrists not cocked, or cocked as little as possible depending on you and that flute. Try and get it, to where it does the least amount of change in what your body wants to do naturally. That's kind of the key. Whatever allows your body to move freely and naturally in a relaxed manner without strain or stress, without being crunched up, that hinders everything. That kind of, it might seem relaxing to just kind of let go, but this is actually a much, much better playing position for any type of performance, which equals better flute playing for you and better enjoyment for you overall. Yes, you can kind of kick back and relax if you want to. But now I feel like I'm having to raise my arms up, which isn't as comfortable. My arms are much more relaxed here. I hope that makes sense to you, and that's why I feel it's better to bring your body up into a very straight position versus this. But then you have kind of strain on your arms because they have to be raised up. It's not as natural of a position. So, I want to thank you for watching. I hope that this helps. I hope it helps answer the questions and everything that brought this video about. If you haven't already, please subscribe and click that little bell down there so you can be notified the next time I do post a video. could be some sort of tutorial like this. It could be taking a look at one of the flutes in my collection or one that I just received. It could be a music video where the Native American style flute does take kind of the center spotlight, if you will, in my music. It could be playing solo, it could be more than one flute, it could be a flute with other instruments of many types as well. Thanks again for watching. I hope this helped, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.